is, will they be able to synergize well?
Well, Zach is, I would say, one of the kind of strongest up-and-comers. I think last year at a LAN, we interviewed Snuts, and Zach literally re-rolled to Windwalker, which what looked like he re-rolled literally the same day, and Snuts said he was the best Windwalker when Chun-Li was there. And it was like everybody thought that Zach was just insane, multi-classer, strong overall player, and he's so young coming into the scene. To me, he's like, he's like Snuts when he first started kind of thing, So he's a powerhouse in and itself. He can play healer and DPS. His roster with Majidin, Valito, these are strong standing tournament competitors. They've qualified to regionals, sometimes multiple times in the past. And then Magnus stepping in as the warrior expert, who actually in game number 1 has got a surprise for us. What the?
Fury Warrior, what?
I need to see what his gear is. I'm staring at this gear page waiting for it to update.
This one's looking good. Let's get these gates open and see who's going to be able to take it.
Yeah, well, Sid takes a look at the gear. We're going to see. It looks like they're going to go for a setup here. They're playing Spite as well as the Frost Death Knight. So we talked a little bit about it yesterday, that we felt Frost Death Knight had a big edge in Cleave Mirrors. I still think that to be true, but they're just going after Sea-Doo's Stormbolt. Sea-Doo immediately trinkets and then has to portal away. Valito and Magnus playing very aggressive, and I think it's likely we see them just go after Sea-Doo consistently in this match, and without a trinket, he's going to be very scared.
Okay. Fury Warrior, it can be an interesting strategy. I was wondering if he was wearing 2 Devastation's Hour, where every 30 seconds he stacks up a buff and then he explodes. And then when you're about to hit 30 seconds, you jump over to the Mistweaver because it does more damage to a single target. You jump over to the Mistweaver and then you explode for huge damage. But it looks like he cleansed off that corruption. He's still wearing the same axe though, which is weird. A taste crit. It's kind of an This seems really odd, but he can get out of snares quite easily because he can dispel it with the Bloodthirst, and this could just be a really specialized Mistweaver killing strategy. At the moment, Magnus in trouble, stunned up, popping the enraged regen, but he's currently stunned. He can't really heal too much with it. Regardless, Zach gonna drop the life cocoon. Magnus should easily make it out of the spites now and survive. And this is definitely a kill Sea-Doo on that Mistweaver monk composition. I'm curious to see if it works out.
Yeah, me too. I think Magnus has just had enough of Chains of Ice. So being the Fury Warrior, being able to free himself of the shackles of Mez in the match definitely is very nice. And Sea-Doo, he's actually getting bursted down, completely destroyed. I did not expect that, but Rudimentary, Magnus with the Fury Warrior, that was a beautiful setup. Sea-Doo definitely wasn't prepared for that. And
I just said it was a Sea-Doo killing
the first point on the board.
Wow. Okay, let's actually talk about what is going on with this composition. One of the first things to say, you talk about Rudimentary being a team that might be able to do some weird things. We get to see that right off the rip. But also, Venruki, I got to compliment you yet again. You kept bringing up the fact that you thought the winning teams were going to have a Warrior available to them. And we have seen time and time again how valuable Warrior can be as a tool.
I mean, there's no question about it. Warriors are really strong, but this team, this is really smart. Frost Death Knights are really good in Cleave Mirrors for a lot of different reasons. The main reason is they completely obliterate your opponent's mobility by putting all your mobility with Delirium and Heartstop Aura. All your mobility gets put on a really long cooldown. But the thing is, if you're an Unholy Death Knight and a Fury Warrior, you don't really care. You're just not going to get snared by the Chains of Ice. You're going to be able to free yourself from that quite a bit. Then all of a sudden, as the Frost Death Knight, you lose that massive advantage that really gives you that edge. So definitely a really cool adaptation here from Rudimentary.
Zico, I just realized something as well.
Yeah?
BlizzCon champions and BlizzCon finals have not done well in this tournament at all.
Yeah.
Wait, actually think about it. They're the only team that's done well so far is Method. Like every other team, like AWC didn't even make it to top 8. Then you have the Golden Guardians get eliminated. Then you have now Method in a tough situation. Just an interesting thing to think about, especially when you see some of these teams, like a team with Zach. So, who a lot of people would say is probably one of the most valuable up-and-comers in the scene. It just really does feel like it's a post-time skip in the anime, right? I feel like we kind of have that, the next generation it's like in One Piece, right? And Zack is Luffy. But that's neither here nor there. Let's actually take a look at the replay and see how this happened.
So Magnus kind of set up this kill here with his. First of all, they forced out C to string it a little bit earlier. Then they get that intimidation shout. They all get time to kind of dogpile on top of Sidu. They get that asphyxiate into another stun, into that pet stun from the Unholy, and that's barely enough lockdown and damage to secure that kill. And I don't know too much about Anime Ridge, like you know already, but I feel like in this case, the Fury Warrior is definitely like kind of a Super Saiyan pick here because he can remove that Chains of Ice completely, and he still brings that burst for the 100 potential. How was that?
Yeah, it was pretty good.
He brings the Spirit Bomb.
Dragon Ball Z is kind of a normie anime. It's like same tier as Ed, Ed, and Eddie. You should definitely get on One Piece and Naruto if you really want to be a man of culture. But
isn't that just fighting scenes?
What'd you say?
Isn't it just fighting scenes?
It's a lot of That's why I like it.
What? This is a good story.
Really? Well, it's nice to learn that about you, Super Tees. I actually, it's a lot of the times when I try to make noises like that, it kind of like messes up my neck a little bit. I'm like, oh, my shoulder, you know. But it is very, very, very good to know that about you, Super Tees. But let's learn a little bit more about Rudimentary. This is a team where I think a lot of the names do have a little bit of recognition for people at home. Like, they are somewhat household names for people who've been watching the AWC for a while. But then, Rookie, for anybody who doesn't know some of the parts of this team, let's actually break it down for everybody at home as we see them lock in this Warrior again as they head to Ashmane's Fall.
I mean, sure. I mean, it's 4 players on Rudimentary. All of them bring their own sort of unique flavor to the team. Zack, of course, he's a player that is exceptionally good at multi-classing, primarily playing Paladin. He's definitely branched out and can play all different classes now, including DPS classes, so definitely a great flex player for Rudimentary. You have Majidin, primarily playing, the mage, as his name would suggest. Valido, he's known for being an exceptional Death Knight, as well as an Elemental Shaman, so that gives them double caster potential as well as cleave potential when you pair up with Magnus, who, as far as I know, only really plays Warrior at a high level, but Warrior right now is really good, and if you are someone that plays on the NA ladder, you will play against, or you play high rated on the NA ladder, you'll play against Magnus quite often. Definitely one of the best Warriors NA has to offer, and I mean, this roster in terms of composition just makes a ton of sense. They have a lot of different options. Obviously, Warrior Death Knight is really strong now, but they can play the Warrior Mage, they can play Ellie Warrior, they can play lots of different things. So this team isn't one-dimensional by any sense, and they're definitely phenomenal players. As long as they can show up and play their best, I think they have a real shot at going far in this tournament.
Yeah, it truly does feel like they've kind of put together Exodia, and they are blowing away Kaiba right now, who would be Method Orange. Method Orange right now took pretty much all of their time to lock in their composition now that they're looking at the Warrior again. And I feel like this is a team, and actually, Ven, not to bombard you with questions, but I feel like you're one of the people who can speak to this the best. I feel like this is a team that a lot of the time, they have almost like a playbook, right? They're like, if we see this, we're going to do this. If we see this, we're going to do this. Do you think that they really expected to run into this composition at all? I feel like they kind of were like, okay, reroute. We actually need to figure out what we're doing into this composition after seeing it.
Yeah, but the thing is, I don't think they have much practice against Fury Warrior on Holy Death Knight. I mean, when you play a Frost Death Knight, there's a certain level of control you have over the matchup just with Chains of Ice, Delirium, and Heartstop Aura. You basically snare everyone a ton, and they can't use their mobility, so you really cripple people in the match. But the composition Rudimentary is running, they're going to have to recalculate and rethink their game plan. I mean, we can see the map. It's going to be Ashmane's Fall. Rudimentary sticks with their same blind pick. Didn't look too bad in the last game, obviously. Method Orange is going to be making some adaptations here, bringing in Samayam on the Demon Hunter, as well as Sidu on the Restoration Shaman. So perhaps not as easy to take down Sidu on that Restoration Shaman. I don't think they're going to be able to blow him up like we saw against Sea Brew on his Mistweaver Monk. So a little bit more durability by Method Orange, and potentially they can find those setups. But I still worry that the Fury Warrior with the Unholy Death Knight might be really strong into the Frost Death Knight for Method Orange, and maybe they don't expect it.
Zico, you've highlighted the phenomena that's going on here a few times already, even this weekend and countless times before. I feel like Rudimentary is very much in the situation where they should stick to this composition because they get to just play with Method Orange at this point and basically be like, you got an answer? What are you going to do? Do you think that that's where they're at, or do you think that maybe they would make some tweaks on the blind?
No, I think absolutely this is what they should be doing. Keep playing your kind of oddball composition until you get forced off of it. Maybe you don't. Maybe you don't even need to reveal anything else that you're holding. If you make it to the next round, you still have some of your surprises left in your back pocket. And honestly, when I'm just looking at this matchup, I know that this is kind of a comfort thing from Method Orange. I think I saw actually on Cedu's Twitter saying that he reached his all-time highest queuing this comp with the Shaman. So this is something that they have been practicing. This is something they're very comfortable with. So I think Method Orange here, they're going back to comfort. They're going to just try to play what they know that they can do well with into everything. And then if that's going to be enough or not, that's still a question that needs to be answered. So Rudimentary, just stick with what you're doing right now, and if you lose this game, go back to the counter comping game. You can pick maybe a mage into some of these meta cleaves.
Yeah, so Rudimentary right now, they are just trying to get more data right now. They're trying to really lean in on that ability to use that win, use that momentum that they already have to get more and more information. And if they are able to win this one, they will put themselves on match point. Keep in mind, though, the dynamic has shifted a little bit. We're in the top side of the bracket. Neither of these teams have lost yet. So if we do see a 3-0 come out, if we potentially do see match point happen here, still an extra lifeline available to both of these teams as the gates do now open.
All right.
I'm a little worried for Sam. I feel like he can get caught in a Stormbolt and be bursted down really, really quickly. So who Rudimentary decides to go after in this matchup is going to be very curious, but it seems like Sam and Mez, they're just going after Zach. They don't care. They're just going to be training him down the best they can, and like I said, limiting Zach's mobility is going to be big. Sam getting bursted down. In the meantime, though, he's caught into 2 stuns. I think it was actually the Gladiator Safeguard that did proc there to keep Sam alive, realizing he might go down in a burst stun. He does live for that attempt, but yeah, Zach definitely has to be careful here.
The Heartstop Delirium is a great combo to kill a Mistweaver. You just inhibit their mobility so effectively. Already Zach dipping dangerously low. Double intimidating shot onto Mez and Cedu. Magnus stalls out for Zach to recover with the life cocoon, but this composition is looking pretty threatening from Method Orange, or at least a lot more so than in game number 1, as we see Zach imprisoned, unable to heal. A swap back over onto Magnus, really hammering down on the Fury Warrior. Double blinding sheet into the Fell Eruption. Samayam gets stunned in return to try and stall damage once again. Zach rolling out into midfield, gets interrupted on his heel, but he pre-Vitality Conduit. He anticipates it, but his entire team is rotting down. Zach portals back out of line of sight. Cedu moves in to try and bully him a bit with the wind shear. He gets paralyzed to stop the wind shear. The entire team is absolutely being devastated, but Samayam out of nowhere gets KO'd. I don't think Cedu was seeing that coming. I don't think Method Orange saw Fury Warrior coming. I don't think anybody saw Fury Warrior coming. Samayam just got owned.
There's one dude out there who's been talking about Fury Warrior quite a bit, and I know right now he's probably watching going, there it is, dude. There it is. But the question is, how much work will this warrior be able to get done? How far will it actually go? Then, one more time, you really did call how much you loved warriors. Do you think that this is something that will extend further than just this series?
Well, I don't know. I just think it's a really nice pickup here. Magnus bringing in the Fury Warrior. It's really not something we see too much, but obviously it has some potential here against the Frost Death Knight. And I just think Stormbolt in particular is such a powerful stun against Demon Hunters. They can't really slide away from it. They can't dodge it. It's not like Leg Sweep where you can just Blade Dance it every once in a while. It's just a ranged stun. They're going to get stuck there. And if Samayam is using Gushing Wounds, then he is really susceptible to being bursted down like we saw in that last match.
Now, Zico, let's actually break down that last match as well. What caught your eye?
Well, everything. First of all, Sam was doing insane damage. He was in a good spot, but he did trinket aggressively. Magnus almost went down, but those Fury Warrior cooldowns came in. He did that self-healing, and then after that, Cedu wasn't even in crowd control. They just dressed at him, and I think so. The way Fury Warriors work is you have your basically you have an ability that when you activate it, your bloodthirst heals you back. So if you pop your cooldowns, like your offensive cooldowns, with that, you're gonna heal yourself even more. And that's what Magnus was doing. He was low HP. He was trying to, top himself off. Got a lot of pressure, a lot of counter pressure, and then he just pressed dressed, and I think it crit. Like, it felt like it looked like such a random kill, to be honest. But they just had so much damage. And Fury Warrior, guess what other team has a Fury Warrior on their roster that's sitting in this top 4? Space Station Gaming. They love that Fury Warrior Windwalker. So maybe we'll see Smexing go on his Fury Warrior as well, because he's been one warrior that really likes it. So it's interesting to see how the meta is going to evolve.
Yeah, I think Smexin with that in his hands could be a huge threat. Definitely someone that you would not want to be queuing into, right? Now the question is, what does Method do here? I mean, are they going to be looking for a change because of how well this composition has been rocking? I mean, if you're Rudimentary right now, you are hanging out, you are cruising, you just keep bringing this. It seems like there isn't an answer.
Well, I just think the problem with that game is as Method Orange, this is the one of the hardest situations you can be in, because you played a game, it was actually going really well for you, but you lost. So I mean, what did you make a change just because you lost? I mean, it seemed like that was a game that was easily winnable for them. Of course,
I'm going to propose a theory.
Okay.
I'm curious how you feel about this, because you obviously have much more experience than most people. You are probably one of the most qualified people in the entire world to answer this question. When I look at this situation,
better not be about ice blocking.
And you didn't pop your ice block in the last game, so you haven't. Now, in all seriousness, when you look at something like this, Method Orange isn't in the worst position that they could possibly be, right? Because they're in the top side of the bracket. They're going to drop down. They know that Warrior might be a threat now in this tournament, period. They got to play tomorrow. Do you think that you try something new, even though you know that it might just result in a 3-0, just to get that little bit more information for when you drop down to the lower bracket? Basically use this game as a war game in a sense, and just say, if we lose, we lose. No reason to get tilted. We're already in a terrible situation. We're already in a corner. We're already with our backs against the wall. Just try something new, see if it works, and then say, okay, in the lower bracket, at least we got to try it in a tournament setting. Or do you go for what almost worked, but it doesn't look like it's necessarily the most favorable matchup on the face of the earth?
Well, that I think what Method Orange was running isn't a bad composition at all. I mean, Everyone's pretty durable. Sam I Am is the most susceptible to being blown up like that, but I think they just got a little overconfident. They had a lot of pressure, a lot of momentum. They were probably really close to winning the game, so they kind of just dropped the ball a little bit in terms of their defensive play. But I think if Method Orange just cleans it up, that matchup should be pretty good for them from what I was seeing. So I'd like for them to just stick with the same thing. I just think it's so risky in this tournament, because who knows? They could try playing something like Warrior Mage, but maybe it doesn't work out as well. I just don't think they have much experience against Unholy Death Knight Fury Warrior, on the tournament realm. But they're going to be making a little bit of changes. Sidu, it looks like he's going to be going over to the Mistweaver Monk instead of the Restoration Shaman. But the one thing that scares me about that, I mean, we saw Sidu just dive so quickly. The first setup on them on the Grand Arena, he had to trinket. The second setup, he almost died. So I don't know if he's just going to gear more defensively or he's relying on the darkness from Sam I Am, but they definitely have to do something in order to keep Sidu alive in this match.
Yeah, it's pretty easy for Rudimentary, though. You don't need to use any deductive reasoning to figure out what composition they were going to bring to this one. It is Rudimentary, Watson. They're going to be able to just lock in the same composition again as they head to Tiger's Peak, looking to take the entirety of the series and stay in the upper portion of the bracket. But Method Orange is going to make that tweak on the healer. Zico, how do you actually feel about Sidu going back to Seabrew?
I was actually going to say this. I feel like Sam died with no CC on Sidu. I feel like if he's a monk, that doesn't happen. But being a monk makes him a target. So he's going to have to play a really solid game with his mobility and everything. But I don't think I ever saw a grapple weapon in game number 1. And I think grapple weapon is going to just give him an extra thing. If you have a Ring of Peace that you can try to place down before he gets down, you have a grapple weapon as well that you can use on the Fury Warrior to stop him from, healing himself. Because the weakness of a Fury Warrior is that they don't have that defensive stance. They don't have that passive damage reduction, right? So they only have, the Versa from the gear to kind of rely on. So if you can get him low and then disarm him, similarly to like a DK with Death Strike, you can basically get better offense that way as well. So I would definitely want to see that. and he just needs to play a good game with his kiting, and I think it's doable.
Hey, you had me sold when you said extra thing. It sounds like it would be very fun to actually be able to play around with something like that in the arena. As we do head to Tiger's Peak, I have to ask you, Supatis, do you think this one's going to be a 3-0?
I mean, it definitely has the potential to be. I felt like the comp that Method Orange the biggest change is Mez not playing Frost. I felt like Frost would be fine into this. It's a melee cleave. You get to bounce your shield streak to everything. You've got Heartstop Delirium for the Mistweaver. Oh, yeah. Sea-Doo changing sort of makes sense because Mistweaver has godlike throughput when you're healing other people, but you're susceptible to dying in a stun. If he fixes some mistakes in positioning so he doesn't die in a stun, he should do better, but it seems really strange that Mez switched. The only difference right now, though, is that Velito's playing an honor talent that nobody normally runs, and he's running the Decomposing Aura, and that just reduces your max health over time whenever you stand next to Velito, and you only get that as Unholy. So I'm wondering if Method Orange are like, hey, he's running this and it seems really good. Maybe I should go Unholy and do the same thing. And that's why Mez went Unholy? Because otherwise Frost makes way more sense.
Yeah, they also, just like a full update. I mean, Ben, I definitely want to hear what you say on this. I just want to let everyone at home know. Method is using a little bit of their break time right now, which I think is straight up just them going, okay, we need to fully think about what's happening here. We need to slow it down for a second. We need to be calm, and we need to figure out what our win condition truly is. But yeah, Ben, what were you going to say?
I was going to say the reason why he's going on, like, I said it at the beginning, like, the main reason why you play Frost Death Knight is for Delirium, Heartstop, Chains of Ice. To really just slow the game down. Everyone is just snared. They can't move. Like, you have a lot of control over the game like that. But when you're playing a Fury Warrior and an Unholy Death Knight, they don't care about Chains of Ice. They don't really care about Delirium either. So I think going back to the Unholy Death Knight, it's just going to provide them a lot more utility and even damage, like consistent damage in the game over the Frost Death Knight. I mean, without the added benefit of snares and Delirium and Heartstop, I just think Unholy's straight up better than Frost.
Well, it's only Magnus, but if you're killing Zac, you don't care. He's still going to take every negative effect.
Yeah.
Definitely a lot to discuss here, but we don't have any more time for talking. The time for talking is over as the gates do open. Rudimentary looking to send Method Orange down to the loser side of the bracket.
All right, let's see if Method Orange get clean swept here by the Fury Warrior. Velito already has a thing from Beyond spawning on him. Was that Mez's? I think it was Velito's. Interesting. So maybe he's wearing a little bit over 40 corruption. He might be gambling a bit here on match point to try and just burst somebody down. We'll have to wait and see because he's taking a tremendous amount of pressure in return. Anti-Magic Shield trades out. Zac gets stunned up. Are they going to swap over to him? All three members of Rudimentary stacked up into another triple stun from Sam I Am. Zac going to duck out of there with a revival, desperately trying to pick his team back up. And the single target pressure is sustained and quite higher on that Unholy Death Knight, going after Velito quite frequently, trying to limit his options. Sea-Doo activating the Way of the Crane. He's playing Conflict and Strife, trying to maybe get some value out of it, but it costs a lot of mana. He gets stunned up. He is getting some value here from the Way of the Crane with that Rising Sun kick, stabilizing the whole team and trying to get away from Magnus at the moment.
Yeah, Magnus still just all over him in the matchup. Beautiful Ring of Peace coming from Sea-Doo, keeping Magnus away. Now Velito is actually getting chopped up. We look at mana. Zac has burned through quite a bit more. Not that much more, a decent amount more. And also has already traded out his Trinket as well. So Velito definitely a pressure point here for the team of Rudimentary. Method Orange really sort of picking it up, but Sea-Doo has to be careful. So far, he's managed to survive, playing a very defensive build here in order to keep himself up, but he's caught in a Stormbolt. Does manage to get the Life Cocoon and will hold on to his Trinket, which is very, very important in this matchup. Sea-Doo has to hold on to his Trinket as much as he can, but Magnus is just not stopping. He is just training him down, and Sea-Doo could ultimately be in a lot of trouble here.
All right, let's see if he can recover. Velito is also taking quite a beating, and Mez is running that Decomposing Aura, so they must have researched Rudimentary in that downtime, seen that maybe this is why they're winning. We should try it and see if it works. Also running the Necrotic Aura, trying to buff that Gushing Wounds magic damage. Beautiful triple stun by Method Orange here, looking to close it out and try and put a point on the board. Interrupting Zac on the follow-up. Hard carry Mez at the moment. Big pressure. That Enraged Regen didn't even top Magnus off. Magnus is still just going for the kill on Sea-Doo. He's going for a Solo kill, stunning him, trying to burst him down. Sea-Doo breaks out of the Storm Bolt, goes for the T, pumps himself back up to full HP. Oh, but Magnus goes for the Reaping Flame on the Abomination. His next Reaping Flame is going to be double damage, and Sea-Doo has no trinket. Magnus could just kill him here and now. They're going for the Big Bang. Sea-Doo barely survives. He rolls away, gets gripped back into the fight, has to Cocoon. Now they can switch back over to Mez. Both Mistweavers don't have life. Cocoon, Valito getting chopped up. Triple Fear by Magnus, looking to stall out with the Icebound Fortitude. It looks like it's going to be enough to keep Valito alive, and there is a lot of corruption on Valito. A thing from beyond slowly marching. It's going to connect. It could just kill him. Big hits there. Valito, what are you doing with your corruption? Another thing from beyond spawning on him. He's chains of icing it. He's trying to kite and avoid that negative. Mez grips him into the thing from beyond. How did he know it was there? Valito takes a big hit. Zach is caught in prison. He trinkets out. The pressure is insane from both sides at the moment.
This is insane. I mean, this corruption from Valito could definitely backfire in this match. Mez really trying to capitalize on that. If you look at mana, Sea-Doo is way ahead at this point, but he could just outright die. He's caught into a Storm Bolt. Do they have the damage to take him down? The Asphyxiate's done. Darkness from Sam I Am keeps Sea-Doo alive. Both teams have relatively topped off, but Sea-Doo still under fire. He's just having such a difficult time actually escaping from Magnus on that Fury War. He's used both of his Chi torpedoes. He's caught in the open. Might have Transcendence available, and he does. He's going to have to use that to stabilize. Now they're swapping over to Mez. Both teams just have so much pressure, but it does seem like Method Orange is ahead here.
All right, they're ahead on mana and pressure, but Sea-Doo could get erased in a stun. Can Zach keep his team alive to that one window of opportunity and just close it out 3-0? They're working with basically nothing left. Sam is ramping up huge damage here with that death sweep. Sea-Doo gets charged over by Magnus. Sea-Doo drops the Ring of Peace to avoid Magnus reconnecting. Valito is marching forward, but things from beyond are still spawning on him. How much corruption is he wearing? Maybe it doesn't matter. Are they just going to kill Mez? Stormbolt over onto Sea-Doo. Zach trying to recover. 0 mana remains for him. Sea-Doo still has a tiny bit left. We're not even a minute towards dampening. Zach is struggling to even pick himself back up over here on the side with nobody attacking him. And now Sam is hitting him. Valito gets stunned up by Mez. Another mana rift has been secured. Zach is totally tapped. Big motorcycle connects. Vroom vroom from Sam I Am as he pushes for the kill. Zach desperately holding on to dear life at 5% remaining health with 2 seconds away, but gets interrupted and sniped out by Sam. Method Orange with the double kill on match point, keep themselves in the series.
Yeah, it seems like, taking that step back, actually thinking about what was going on in this composition that they hadn't seen or maybe hadn't had as much practice against definitely did help. But Zico, what were the big changes that you noticed in this game when we do take into account the other two?
Definitely the Mistweaver is a big pick, and I think I was kind of like on the fence. I was like, we'll see how the Unholy plays out. Like, usually Frost is really good, but in this specific scenario, they're kind of playing a comp that can play a little bit around the Frost, and it just felt like Maz on the Unholy DK was able to put out a lot more pressure, but I'm not sure if that was just because of the DK swap or also because Valito decided to wear more than 40 corruption. Because at one point I saw 2 things from beyond like connecting at the same time on Valito. I saw like 2 beams basically. So that I think Valito should definitely wasn't work.
It really doesn't feel like the weird thing. I know a lot of us talked at the very beginning, even during like Method Mayhem and things like that. We're like, yo, somebody just gonna go like absolutely ham and just stack like 80 corruption or something like that, something crazy. And we saw a few teams try it, and it just didn't really work that well. And also the weird thing is a lot of the really good corruptions are just so cheap as far as your corruption budget goes, right? Like the amps are like, what, 20? And with the State of the Cloak, it ends up not really being that much. So you don't get that much more damage. Sid was like, actually, he kept being like, yo, what just hit you so hard? Like when we were queuing the other day, I think I
asked you to take it off, and you're like, no, I can't do it. I don't do damage. And I'm like, come on.
I think I had like, 70 on, and every now and then, you don't have to deal with any of it at all. And even then, you just don't do that much more damage. It doesn't seem like it's really ever worth. Do you think that there is a scenario where that gamble will ever pay off, Zico?
I mean, yes, for sure. There is some scenarios. I mean, for example, if you play a comp where you have, a high threat target and you're not a high threat target, so maybe like a Destrolock Frost Mage, for example, there as the Frost Mage, you can probably get away with wearing some negative corruption because, let's be honest, they have to go on the Warlock or the Warlock is just going to destroy. But still, it is a risk because if you just get a little bit unlucky, 2 things from beyond procs at the same time, all of a sudden your healer might have to use something on you, and then they won't have it for the person that's being focused. So I think it's better to be safe than kind of gamble it. But if you're up 2-0, why not?
Yeah, it's like, yeah, I guess that is the thing, right? When you're winning, when you're hot, when you're on the hot streak, you go all in, right? The thing is I think is that like,
is that a good strategy?
Throw
I'm not sure.
When you're up 2-0, why not?
I'm not proud of how I am. The thing is I think he's at like 55, right? So he's not quite at the point. I think you have to get Cascading Disaster at 60, right? And when that happens, if your thing from beyond connects, then it spawns another eye and it gets out of control really fast. Just like you can tell my life probably has with what I just said. But the thing is 55 is absurd. The amount that you're actually going to have to deal with those things from beyond. What do you feel is actually a safe corruption level for anyone watching right now? It's like, wait, I've been playing 80 corruption. What should I do? What do you feel is
39 is you never go above 39 if possible.
Yeah. If they're spiting, if you're playing against someone that's spiting, even less. Like ideally, definitely less. But 39 is like, if you're playing over 39, you're crazy in my opinion.
Sorry, Sid.
True that.
Now
I have one thing I just want to highlight about last game. Sidu was playing Way of the Crane. And
it's conflict. You had to.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that it's a bad thing that he was playing it. I'm just saying he's playing Way of the Crane, and there's not a lot of people that know about this, but if you play a Mistweaver with Way of the Crane, it makes all damage you deal heal for 150% of what it did, and it increases all physical damage by 25%. Now, I want to give a big shout out to my boy Peekaboo, who just died to a dress trinket a little bit earlier today that hit him for about 200,000. So I'm thinking Mistweaver, dressed, Way of the Crane, AoE lay on hands, and it does 25% more damage. I want to see that.
Even more so than that, if you pop your Focus Thunder Tea or your Thunder Tea and you Rising Sun Kick, it gives you a massive versatility boost as well. I think it gives you like a 900 versatility or something like that. So you can like Thunder Focus Tea, or I forget what the Tea. There's a lot of Teas on Mistweaver. You use the Tea that empowers your abilities. Rising Sun Kick, get a huge boost of versatility. Way of the Crane, and then Dressed. And I know Sidu does that. I've played with him before where he's gotten over 200,000.
You think he's going to do it in a tournament though? Not when he's just memeing on the ladder? You think he'll do it?
I feel like it's good though. I mean, it heals too. Why not?
Yeah.
He's also the one that dies, so like he's wearing a safeguard. So is he going to take off the safeguard to do that?
He's wearing Voodoo Totem and safeguard.
You like Voodoo though, because if you get kicked, you can
The nice
Voodoo
thing about
Totem.
Voodoo, yeah, it's like if you get kicked, you can use it, which is nice. I think you keep safeguard and you swap Voodoo.
This is really interesting to me. I mean, we're going into Ruins of Lordaeron. Method Orange has the exact same pick, but I'm really surprised that Rudimentary isn't switching it up from the Fury Warrior. I feel like that game was going pretty well, but maybe it might have been a mistake for Valito to be wearing so much corruption, and that's why things kind of spiraled out of control. It might have actually been he accidentally like messed up his gear. You know,
that's
like,
definitely why Zach oomed first, I think.
Maybe normally he plays like a good amount of gushing, but this time he knew he's the only target, so he put on a versatility set, but he wore one too many pieces, and that's when things really spiraled out of control. So maybe they just say, you know what, if I'm not taking millions of damage from things from beyond, maybe we're gonna win that matchup, and Zach will be able to hold on to a bit more mana.
Well, even with it spiraling out of control in that game, they are still on match point. Rudimentary looking to close it out here on Ruins of Lordaeron.
All right, 2020 AWC, and finally, this would be a suitable resting place for Method Orange, as it is a cemetery. We're on match point. Rudimentary be able to root out their opponents here. We'll find out momentarily.
We'll have to see what they decide to do. I really think it's likely Rudimentary just goes after Sidu again in this matchup, but big damage incoming. Magnus and Valito already just getting down so low. Mez and Sam putting out tons of damage. Zach gets interrupted. He didn't have to play catch-up, but it looks like the healing from Valito, from Magnus, from Zach is enough to stabilize, but what an opener there for Method Orange.
Oh, Sidu getting connected too, interrupted with the Mind Freeze from Valito. They're trying to stay on target. He double chi torpedoes back to center tomb. Zach goes after him a little bit tickling him with the Rising Sun kick, potentially looking for a Ring of Peace to knock him back into the clutches, but Mez is in trouble. Sidu gets pummeled. It's match point. Mez anti-magic shields. Death strikes back into the game. Now Sidu gets swapped too. 6 swaps from Rudimentary. Sidu gets gripped on his roll. He's out of range of his port, I believe. He needs to desperately get back in range of it as soon as possible, but they're killing Magnus just outright with pure brute force. Zac gets out of the paralyze, gets the life cocoon. Sidu now ports back to the tombstone. Zac gets stunned up. We see Method Orange switching to the healer on Rudimentary. Asphyxiate out. Big pressure. No life cocoon. Popping that Fort Brew. Trying to be enough to survive. Will it be? There's multiple interrupts. He pops the T, but immediately it's over and he's interrupted. Gripped back into their clutches. And this is likely to be a healer race on match point. Which healer can survive the onslaught?
I mean, that really is the question. Sidu gets gripped back. He's in midfield. He ports away. Beautiful transcendence. Sidu tops off. Zac still in so much trouble. He doesn't have the same luxury. It is really difficult for him to get away from Samayam. Zac gets imprisoned. He's going to eat another mana rift. His mana is not looking good. Already down to around 25%, but his health is even lower, and he gets absolutely deleted. Nicely done there by Method Orange. And now, I mean, Rudimentary, it seems like they're the ones that have to go back to the drawing board because this does not seem nearly as good into an Unholy Death Knight.
It definitely doesn't, and it's also crazy to think, I mean, just to go big picture here for a second, I mean, how many times have we gone to a Game 5 today compared to yesterday where it almost felt like we weren't going to see very many? Very interesting to see what North America is putting out all in all, but how has Method Orange been able to regain here, Zico?
I mean, it's just the compositional swap here, I think. This is the thing that we were kind of talking about a little bit earlier when we were, showing that Mez piece and talking a little bit about Mez. This is what Method Orange are really good at. They are super good at figuring out, why are we losing? What comp should we play that beats this? How should we approach this matchup? How do we want to make our gear? How do we want to do this, that, and the other? And I mean, we've seen it in so many different tournaments. Even in Classic, when Sidu was dueling, we had some very interesting builds that he was running.
Yeah.
And I think this is just a case of that. Method Orange really showing their experience and keeping their head cool when they're down 0-2, figuring something out, and then playing it out in a great way.
Yeah, I mean, I think people forget that side of Sidu a lot, right? It's really easy to talk about, what happens when you have somebody like Trill and Mez theory crafting, but Sidu wants to have every advantage that he can every time they walks into the arena. And like, if you ever talk to him before he's doing the tournament, I know I got a chance to talk to him before the dueling tournament that Asmund and Esfan did, and like I talked to him before the tips tournament, like all of that stuff, and he's thinking about everything that he's seen in all of those duels, trying to create the weirdest build. Of course, you're going to see that here when the stakes are as high as they are. Now, the question is, what do you expect to see Rudimentary do here now?
It's got to be a comp swap coming out of them. They tried their little surprise comp, and I think now more than ever, it's time to swap some of those melee specs, or maybe even bring out their mage. If they fight a melee cleave, they bring out Majidin. He plays Arcane.
Well,
I'm just kidding.
Why don't they just play Frosty K if they know it's going to be Unholy Demon Hunter? I mean, that's what we saw. You just play Frosty K to win the melee cleave mirror. It wasn't working into the Fury Warrior, but they're not going into a Fury Warrior.
Yeah, they have a lot of options. I mean, they can play that. They can play Mage comp. Like, they can play Mage Warrior. I feel like they have all of the cards, and they're going to have the map pick as well. They can go, like you said, Frost DK, Arms Warrior, like just traditional TSG if they want.
I feel like you still need to, in a lot of ways, and I'm curious if you disagree with me here, Ben Ricky, going into this Game 5, I feel like you favor Rudimentary. It seems like they do have most of the cards in their hand with the momentum that they got early in this series and just with what they have available in general.
I mean, maybe. I mean, we'll definitely have to see. I mean, that's the thing about a tournament. Sometimes you get stubborn with your picks, and you have to go through the growing pains of actually making those mistakes and not picking the right composition when the pressure's on. So, I mean, for Method Orange, I think it's likely we see the exact same composition. It's going to be a small map, Black Rook Hold, and they do lock it in very confidently. Rudimentary, now what are they going to do? They need to switch it up, I would say almost certainly, unless they feel like they really have no better option, and then I really worry for them, because the thing about Method Orange's comp with the Demon Hunter is they always have that win condition of being able to mana rift. Like, if Valito and Magnus can't find a kill, they are on a time limit, because you can bet Samayam will be landing mana rifts on Zac, and it's not going to be evenly balanced in terms of Zach's mana and Sidu's mana. Zach will always be behind no matter what. So Rudimentary, they are going to lock in the Arms Warrior instead, but you really have to keep in mind, if Valido and Magnus aren't putting in work and closing out the game early, they're just going to lose to Mana Rift.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I feel like Mana Rift has just always been that trump card for Method Orange for the past, what, like 3 years?
Been a long
like, it's always been like, it's like, well, at least they got Mana Rift. It's like everything's going wrong for the boys on Method Orange, but at least they got Mana Rift. It has just been this thing that has really helped them out so much, and it's curious to me when that's going to stop kind of paying the bills in a certain way.
Mana Rift?
Yeah.
I mean, who knows? It's pretty good. I feel like
it's pretty good.
It's funny because even when Mez and Trill were playing with Colo, I think they were the ones that like double DH and brought Mana Rift in that we never really had seen it before. So it really has, that talent has been playing dividends for, Mez, Trill, and now Sidu for quite some time. It definitely helps out.
I see it, like, Decomposing Aura is 100% what made Mez switch, I think, because that's the first. This is not an honor talent that was really standard for Unholy DK, but now because the health pools are so high, it makes sense. Just remove 15% health from anyone next to the Death Knight. They just start with 15% less health. That makes a lot of sense. The Valido's valuing that more than just going Frost Arms. So I'm curious if this actually changes the meta where Frost DK isn't king. It's actually the Decomposing Aura that allows the Unholy Death Knight the advantage. But we're on match point. It's game 5.
Yeah, I mean, let's see what happens here. Mez and Sama midfield with Valido and Magnus. A bit of a slugfest early on. Zach has to position really far away, and he needs to avoid Mana Rifts as much as he can. Seems like early on, Method Orange definitely is getting the better end of this exchange. Big damage abominations for both of these Death Knights. Samayam landing his first Mana Rift of the game. Zach actually going for a Paralyze. They're going all in on Samayam. Big damage. They're actually playing Spike Trinket, something you really wouldn't expect, to over-corrupt Samayam. But this could work out really well. If Samayam is playing, 38 corruption, he's really pushing that upper limit. This is something they could easily abuse, and I kind of like that X factor coming in from Rudimentary, trying to switch up their strategy and potentially punish too much corruption.
All right, let's see if they can get a kill here. Zach is interrupted. Valido is grapple weaponed. He can't heal up with Death Strike. Magnus is also low. Zach needs to pick up basically the whole team here. He's going to trade Gladiator's Medallion to escape crowd control and try and stabilize with the damage right now. Is quite insane. Zach is crowd controlled. They Stormbolt Sam. They Sharpen Blade him. They're trying to stall the Mana Rift. They stall it and they burst Sam down at the same time. He has to blur. He vengeful retreats away, but then charges right back into the fight as Sidu picks him up, going after Zach. Zach tries to roll away. Gets stunned on his roll by Sam. Sam has been hard carrying these last 3 games. He's looking to close out the series. Magnus stops him in his tracks with a triple intimidating shout, buying Zach some time to get this life cocoon up and rolling. But Method Orange are ruthless at the moment, just gunning for Zach.
Yeah, but Samayam's going to have to be very careful. I mean, the burst damage on him is really scary. The problem is now is Zach is just getting caught in a situation where he cannot escape from the Mana Rifts. The Mana Rifts are adding up. Sidu, though, he's been burning through so much mana. He's actually behind. If Zach can recover, if Magnus and Zach can recover here, I don't know if they're going to be able to do it. It's looking like Magnus is in so much trouble, and he gets annihilated. Absolutely destroyed. Method Orange were down 0-2 in the series, and they managed to battle it back. Really nicely done by them, but Rudimentary definitely coming in with some interesting strategies early on. Then I expect them to be a force in the lower bracket.